Want more Chinese videos like this? Subscribe to our channel.
Welcome to ChineseClass101.com's 3分钟汉语 the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn Chinese. Hey, 大家好，我叫马燕如，很高兴与大家见面。Hi everybody, I'm Yan Ma. Nice to meet you. In this series, we're going to learn basic Chinese expressions. It's super easy and only takes 3 minutes. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to introduce yourself in Chinese. Ready? Let's get started. 你好，我叫马燕如。Hi, I'm Yan Ma. 你好，我叫马燕如。Start by saying 你好, which means hello. 你好。Then say 我叫, which means I'm called. 我叫。After this, say your name. 你好，我叫马燕如。Yes, it's just that easy. When you introduce yourself, you might want to tell people a little more than your name. Again, it's easy. You're learning Chinese, so let's say you want to tell people you're a Chinese student. In Chinese, this is 中文学生. The first word, 中文, is the word for the Chinese language. 中文. Next, we have 学生. This means student. 学生. Altogether, it's 中文学生。中文学生. Now, if you want to say I'm a student, just start with the word for I we learned before. 我. Then add 是. This means is. 是. After this, add the word for student. Do you remember it? 中文学生。中文学生。Put them together and you have 我是中文学生。我是中文学生。Remember, start by saying hello, then say your name. 你好，我叫马燕如。Follow with a little bit about you. 我是中文学生。And now you have a nice self-introduction. 你好，我叫马燕如。我是中文学生。Now it's time for Yanru's tips. When men introduce themselves, it's very common for them to shake hands. In business situations, women will do this too. In social or casual situations, however, it is common for women to simply nod or smile in order to show friendliness. In the last lesson, we learned how to introduce ourselves in Chinese. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to use good manners as we thank people. 准备好了吗? Are you ready? 我们开始吧. So let's start. There are several ways to thank someone. Let's start with the easiest. It is just one word. 谢谢. 谢谢. 谢谢 means thanks. Another slightly more emphatic way of saying thank you is 谢谢你. Do you see what we changed? We just added 你 to the end. 你. As you may recall, this is a word for you. It's like saying thank you. 谢谢你. 谢谢你. When you really want to express thanks to someone, there is a different way to do it. 太谢谢了. 太谢谢了. As we've seen before, 谢谢 means thanks. Here, we've got a new word 太, which means too, as in too much of something. 太. And another 了. Together, this sentence is like thanks too much. 太谢谢了. How about the response? It's easy. Let me show you the most basic way to do it. 不用谢. 不用谢. 用 here means need. 用 Putting the 不 before it makes it negative. 不 Altogether, it's 不用 no need. 不用 Finally, we add 谢 which means thanks. So it means something like no need to thank. We use it just like the English you're welcome. So when someone says 谢谢 to you, you can simply reply with 不用谢. Now it's time for English tips. Although 谢谢 is simple, it can be used in both formal and informal situations with just about anyone, anywhere, and at any time. But actually in China, we don't usually say 谢谢 to our families and our close friends. The expression, while applied, creates a feeling of distance. But it doesn't mean that we take thankfulness for granted. Instead, we will do something else in the future to show our gratitude. In the last lesson, we learned how to show gratitude by saying 谢谢. In this lesson, we will learn some of the most common greetings used in China. 准备好了吗? Are you ready? 我们开始吧. So, let's start. The most commonly used greeting is 你好. 你好. You may remember this from lesson 1. 你好 means hi, hello, and how do you do? It's a slightly formal expression though, so just use it at work or similar occasions. Don't use it with your family and friends. The informal hello is sure to be familiar to you. You probably use it every day already. Hey, hey. If it sounds familiar, it's because it's just like the English hey, but make sure to say it with the right Mandarin tone. Hey. When you want to greet someone in the morning, you can also say 早啊,早啊. It's very commonly used, but it's slightly informal. What about when we leave? What should we say? 再见. This very common expression is similar in meaning to the English see you again. 再见. This is goodbye. Though simple, it can be used in almost all occasions. Now you can greet people in many different ways in Chinese. Let's review them all again. When meeting people for the first time or in a formal occasion, 你好. When meeting friends or family members, you can say, hey. In the early morning, you can say, 早啊. When leaving, no matter whether it's a formal or informal situation, 再见. It's easy, isn't it? Now it's time for Yanru's tips. As you know, there are more and more Chinese starting to learn English. This has started to affect the language. Just like how you can say hey instead of 你好, you can also say bye bye instead of 再见. So if you forget how to say 你好 and 再见, you can use the easy heys and bye byes and people will understand you with no problem. In the last lesson, we learned the most common forms of greetings in Chinese. To remember them, in this lesson we're going to learn a very useful phrase. Do you speak English? If you find yourself in a situation where you need assistance in English, this phrase can be a lifesaver. But because you're asking it in Chinese, you can be sure that everyone will understand what you are saying, even if the answer is no. Here is a common, slightly informal way to say it. 你会说英语吗? 你会说英语吗? Let's break that down. You, 你 can, 会 speak, 说 English, 英语 question mark particle 吗? You will notice the word 你 in the beginning of the sentence. Remember that this is the way to say you. The next word 会 is like the English can. Then we have the verb 说, which means to speak. Next up is 英语, the word for English. And last we have 吗. This is used to ask a question. It works just like a question mark. Put it at the end of the sentence with a low tone. Altogether, it's 你会说英语吗? To learn how to properly use verbs like 会, please look at our Absolute Beginner series on ChineseClass101.com. You can find very detailed grammar lessons and resources there. We are now going to make this sentence formal. First, we need to use the formal version of you, which is 您. Even if we change the word for you, we don't need to change the verb 会. Everything stays the same. 您会说英语吗？您会说英语吗？ Adding 请问 the sentence becomes even more polite. It means something like excuse me here. Altogether, it's 请问您会说英语吗？ The responses you will receive could be one of these three. 会 yes. 会 or 会我会说一点 Yes, I can speak a little. 会我会说一点 or 我不会说 No, I don't. 我不会说 Since this last one is a negative statement, we need to say the negative word 不 before the verb 会. It's just that easy. Now it's time for Yenru's tips. For those of you who are not only English speakers, you can use this question with any language you need. More and more Chinese people are studying other languages, so maybe you will get lucky. Just replace 英语 with 意大利语 for Italian, 俄语 for Russian, 西班牙语 for Spanish, 德语 for German. This lesson we mentioned the expression 请问. But did you know that this could also be used as an apology? In the next lesson, we will learn this and other ways to apologize in Chinese. I will see you in our next 3分钟汉语 lesson. 再见.
Want to speak real Chinese from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at ChineseClass101.com.
Hey, 大家好，我叫马燕如. Hey everybody, I am 燕如嘛. Welcome to ChineseClass101.com's 3分钟汉语, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn Chinese. In the last lesson, we learned the phrase 你会说英语吗? Do you speak English? We mentioned the word 请问, which means excuse me in formal Chinese. But this isn't the only way to say excuse me or I'm sorry in Chinese. You will have to use different words in different situations. Don't worry, it will be very easy. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to make a proper apology in Chinese. The expression 请问 that we learned in the last lesson is used when asking a question. For example, 请问天安门在哪儿? Excuse me, where is 天安门? 请问天安门在哪儿? The first word is 请问 or excuse me. Then comes a place. In this case, 天安门. Next we have 在. This is a word like the English look at it. Last we have 哪儿, which means where. Altogether, it means something like excuse me, 天安门 located where? 请问天安门在哪儿? An informal way to say excuse me is 不好意思. 不好意思. 不 we have seen before and means something like not. Next we have 好, which means good. Finally we have 意思, which means thought. Altogether, we get something that means not good thought, but which perhaps could be translated as it is thoughtless of me. 不好意思. We can use 不好意思 when asking a question or when apologizing. All of these phrases can be used for either excuse me or I'm sorry. But if you really want to apologize for something, it might be better to use a different phrase. That phrase is 对不起. It means I am sorry and can be used in both formal and informal situations. 对不起. This is so common that you should learn it all as one phrase and not worry about breaking it down. 对不起. This is used as often as the phrase 谢谢 is to show appreciation. Now it's time for Yanru's tips. Please remember that in Chinese, if you accidentally bump into someone, we don't say, excuse me, 请问. Instead say, 对不起. In the last lesson, we learned some words used when apologizing in Chinese, including 请问 and 不好意思. In this lesson, we're going to learn numbers in Chinese. Yes, numbers, 数字, from 1 to 10. And you're going to learn them in only 3 minutes. 3分钟. Are you ready? Let's start. 一 二 三 四 五 六 七 八 九 十 Okay, now repeat after me. I will say the numbers and give you time to repeat each one. 一 二 三 四 五 六 七 八 九 10. Great job! What is before E? Do you know the word for 0? It's 零. You don't have any more excuses. You can now give your friends your cell phone number in Chinese. Let's try it together. We will use the phrase 我的号码是, which means my number is. 我的号码是13094250637. Can you read it by yourself? 13094250637. Perfect. Now it's time for Yanru's tips. When we talk about numbers like telephone numbers, bus numbers, and so on, we pronounce 1 as 1. For example, a bus number 101 is pronounced 101, and you can even use 1 instead of E when saying phone numbers. Try it when you are in China. I'm sure that it will impress people a lot. In the last lesson, we learned the numbers from 1 to 10. Have you forgotten? Here I will tell you again. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. And now let's continue from 11. 11 11 12 12 13 13 14 14 15 15 16 16 17 17 18 18 18 19 19. And finally we have 20 20. Okay, now repeat after me. I will say the numbers and give you time to repeat each one. 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18、19、20. These numbers may seem harder to remember, but they're actually very simple. Just take the numbers you learned in the last lesson and put a 10 in front of them. So saying 11 is like saying 10-1. Saying 12 is like saying 10-2, and so forth. Then when you get to 20, you just say 2-10. Isn't that easy? Let's not stop at 20. Counting up to 100 is super easy. Now I will give you the tens. 30, 30, 40, 40, 50, 50, 60, 60, 70, 70, 80, 80, 90, 90, 100, 100. Memorizing these numbers is incredibly easy. Notice that all tens start with 10 and all tens end with 10. To remember what 10 means, of course, it is the word for 10. So actually, all you have to remember are the numbers from 1 to 10. Then for 100, you have to learn one new word, 百. What do you put in front of it? 一, which is 1. So it really is like saying 100. The last thing to learn in this lesson is how to form compound numbers above 20. This is super easy. Take the tens and simply add the numbers you learned in the previous lesson. Let's try it out. How would you say 56 in Chinese? Let's take it step by step. 50 is 50, and then add 6, 6. 56. It's done. Isn't that easy? Let's make another number, for instance, 98. Take 90, 90, and add 8, 8, 98. Now it's time for Yenru's tips. After only 2 lessons, you're now able to count to 100 in Chinese. But do you know how to say years like 1950? You might think it would be long and difficult, but actually, it's super easy. You don't have to say 1950, which is 1950, or 1950, which is 1950. All that you need to do is to say it number by number, like telephone numbers. So it could be 1950, 1950, and then 年, which means year, 1950年. In the last lesson, we learned how to count in Chinese. I hope you spend some time practicing numbers, because they will come in handy for this lesson. We're going to learn how to go shopping in China. Before we go, you need to know how to say how much is this. 这个多少钱? 这个多少钱? Are you ready to go shopping in China? Let's go! You see something you like and want to ask the shopkeeper how much it costs. The first thing to say is 请问. Do you remember what that means? Excuse me. 请问这个多少钱? 请问这个多少钱? If we want to be more specific when asking how much is this, or refer to a certain type of object, it's super easy. We just need to add the noun. For example, 帽子, a hat. 请问这个帽子多少钱? Excuse me, how much is this hat? 请问这个帽子多少钱? Another example, 杯子 cup. 请问这个杯子多少钱 ？Excuse me, how much is this cup? 请问这个杯子多少钱 ？At this point, the shopkeeper can answer by saying 这个 which means this, and then the cost. For example, 这个55元 What number is 55? I'm not telling you. Okay, it's 55. It costs 55 yuan. If you think it's too expensive, say 能便宜点吗? This means, can it be a little cheaper? It's really useful in China, but it won't work if you are in something like a large department store where bargaining isn't allowed. At this point, can you count renminbi in Chinese? We're going to learn how to do this and much more in the next lesson. I'll be waiting for you in our next 3分钟汉语 lesson. 再见。